That's the way fashion is made, not through the press, not through designers or anything else. It's made through people.
I think now they're recognizing that he single-handedly changed American fashion.
I've always had a big known clientele on all different levels, and that is always helps the business. The people that have more public attention, like Eliza Minnelli or Elizabeth Taylor or Lauren Bacall, in the end result, the client makes it fashionable. In other words, if somebody that's in the public eye wears your things, it causes attention to them, and perhaps other people might want to look that way. I remember Mrs. Onassis, who was Mrs. Kennedy in those days, came to me and wanted to look like a woman on the street. She didn't want to look like, you know, Mrs. Kennedy. And she came and, you know, we made her an enormous wardrobe of things, so she would look rather simple and could walk down the street without being noticed. Oh, New York in 1957 was the most terrific place I'd ever seen. I was a young man when I first came to New York, and it was a land of fantasy, style, beauty, glamour, safety, everything, all day and all night. It was just the most wonderful place I'd ever been in my life. I came from the Midwest, and coming to New York was just like the land of opportunity. It was the dream that was always wanting, and it was finally fulfilled. I always wanted to change everything in clothing, to make it a little more simple, to make it a little more American, to make it more contemporary and newer, and always a point of difference. And that's the only thing that makes a designer become important. And that's the only way that you really create a style and that you have a signature. It was a fashion that was to bridge the gap between the very fancy end of the fashion business, the haute couture, for lack of a better word, the ready-to-wear things. So people could look, you know, very interesting and look like they had some quality clothing on and look different than, you know, the average couture client or the average ready-to-wear client. It was very special. It was like you were the only one that had it, you know? It was a major breakthrough, and, you know, it really changed the look of fashion totally. It's helped me help myself. It's something that I needed very, very much, you know, at a particular point in my career, because my business was growing so very fast. I wasn't able to do all of the legal obligations and the financial aspects of the business, and I needed a larger corporate structure to help me out. It really helped me help myself, to free me to do more, which I was able to do. I think it only enhances the Halston name. To reach a broader public is a much more interesting challenge than to reach a few. And it's a very interesting and I think healthy challenge. It hasn't been a problem so far, and I'm quite a good producer of revenue.
He was great. He was like a big brother to me. He dressed me before cabaret. I knew him since I was 19. He protected me. He was supportive. He was always there. He was just wonderful. It's kind of a ruthless business, fashion, as is show business, as is any business, you know, journalism, all businesses are fairly ruthless, but the fashion industry is really ruthless. I think now they're recognizing that he single-handedly changed American fashion. He made it clean and elegant. He was a minimalist. He made women look beautiful, and the clothes, they wore the clothes didn't wear them. He's being recognized and now for really what he contributed, which was enormous.
Our next guest is famous for elegance, timeless clothes, and a glittering list of clients. Here's Halston. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
You know, I was amazed to find out that we were in Chicago at the same time.
Yeah, I started my career there.
And it happened through a lovely, part of it happened because of a lovely lady we both know and
yes,
admire.
Fran Allison. She was my very first client. And then it just went on from there.
Mushroomed down very much. Donna Karen of Van Klein, and we'll be right back.
I think fashion is very important. I think the important elements are the very simple elements of people going out and buying it, wanting to wear it, wearing it out, looking terrific in it, and other people want to look that way. I mean, there's no magic about fashion. Fashion's made by people, all kinds of different people. But in fact, they have to put their money down, and they have to buy it, and it must work for them. They have to look terrific in it, or nobody wants to look that way. So that is really always what happens in the fashion world, on every level, whether it be cosmetics, whether it be clothing, style points in the home, anything. It is always that. And they tell you pretty much what they want and what they need. And that we dress a rather conservative, business-type public, not necessarily businesswomen. All right, and then we'll keep the embroideries here and then the drapes over there. Does anything look good? And then this and This with the velvets. Maybe you might have to change a couple of these around, but you know, maybe you'll have to hold her back so you have the two jackets coming. I think it's very difficult to take a woman just abstractly and say what are the basic elements of today's woman. Today's woman is a mother, she's an older woman, she lives in the South, she lives in the North, she's a businesswoman. She does all kinds of different things. I think you have to really say, you know, what do you do and what do you need for your daily toil and what would make you look more attractive at night. I think this fall that perhaps fashion is going to take many different directions. I think it's going to be the direction of short lengths. I think it's going to be longer lengths. I think there's going to be sort of absolutely square clothes, but basically kind of conservative clothes. I think that there are many offerings out there for the many different needs of everybody, but in reality, I think that people are more conservative now than they have been for quite some time, and that perhaps they'll buy fewer things that will work for their lifestyle. I think the business community, when it deals with women, really have a special need now because there are more working women than ever before in our country. Some 55% of American women have some form of gainful employment. Business transcends into social life. In other words, I think people have to work harder, so they need clothes for those different occasions. Much of fashion is bought for entertaining. In other words, I mean, it's the corporate wife, or it's the businesswoman at lunch, or it's the cocktail party, or the dinner party, and so forth. So that's a very important part of it, where people want to look somewhat affluent and somewhat conservative, because we have such a large business community today. I think that'd be a good one for it. Yeah. Maybe that'd be good, Chrissy. Yeah. Push the sleeve that part. All right, Margaret, let me see you. Yeah, now there's many ways to wear this one, you know. I think you want to take it and wrap it around you, don't you think so? Mm-hmm. You know, I think it would be good to do something like that. So we have a little bit of a surprise. And then unwind it. Whether it be shoes, handbags, we have a new belt business. We're in every aspect of accessories. And that, you know, it really pulls the whole costume together and makes it work. When you get into shoes, and you design shoes, there are very realistic things in the shoe business that people cannot wear high heels, or they cannot wear low heels, or they cannot wear open toes, or they cannot wear this or that and next thing. So you have to have a big variety of things for that big variety of people out there, of all ages, all climatic conditions, and all kinds of needs. I think probably we come up with some 400 shoe designs every year. There are always essential elements when one is designing a bag, for an example. By and large, America has accepted the shoulder bag approach to things more than anything else because they can have more hands-free getting in and out of taxis and doors and that sort of thing. In our new belt business, we'll be doing sort of casual type belts as well as evening belts. I think there is a big need in the marketplace for decorative belts because clothes are quite simple by and large. And that it would be nice to have something that would dress up last year's dress. And in the evening, I can sometimes make the plainest dress look festive.
You know?
Yeah, basically it's a natural makeup, natural look, just glamorous, but the tones are basically, you pick up what the new colors that would go with your own skin tone.
Right. Blow it upside down, so I brush it against the grain. It gives it the volume, and then I can swing it out, and it's very fluffy.
The cosmetic world is always closely related to the fashion world. We use colors that aren't necessarily what we use in our ready-to-wear collections, but things to enhance the face with the particular seasons in mind. Like in the fall, we use colors that are not quite as strong as perhaps we might use in the summertime or in holiday time. The conservative colors to go with the conservative light in the fall. But I think that they're always interrelated in almost every aspect. The importance of cosmetics is that it makes people look better. It makes them feel better, and I have seen the magic of makeup turn the biggest stars into the star that you love and adore. And it works. It works for everyone on all ages. It is true magic.
Okay, we have to talk about it. Halston. I saw the series on Netflix and immediately fell in love with it. The story is amazing, and yet I still don't understand how I, a Brazilian woman who always loved fashion, had never heard of him. This realization kinda makes me ashamed, but I mean, it's always time to learn something new, right? Rest assured that I won't be giving you any spoilers if you haven't watched the show. I'm here to talk about the one thing that made it all possible: fashion, and Halston's understanding of it. He may not be worldly famous to a fashion-loving millennium Brazilian woman, but he did make an impact, and oh, what an impact. I recently became interested in 1970s fashion, and Halston is everywhere. His style and his designs influenced a whole generation, a whole decade, and he continues to influence fashion till this day. Those long, flowy, amazing dresses, plunging necklines, tie-high slits, that's all Halston. And it's more current than ever. You can literally take one of his designs and walk down the street right now feeling gorgeous and not feel like you're wearing a 1970s costume. That's because Halston's designs are timeless. They are chic and minimalistic, and they make a woman look and feel powerful. You can find his amazing personality in every design. I could go on and on talking about this. Psychological meaning, the feeling that using his designs bring to the person wearing it. But I'd rather you try it for yourself. That's the only way to really understand his genius. In order for me and you to do that, I've selected some designs that are featured on the show or are completely originals. The kind of 1970s designs that we can actually wear today. This is the type of design that checks all Halston's boxes. A long, flowy silk dress that clings to all the right places, featuring clean, sleek lines and in some cases a plunging neckline or a tie-high slit. In an interview with Vogue in 1980, he said, "I think probably that I cleaned up American fashion at a particular point in time. It was just getting rid of all the extra details that didn't work, bows that didn't tie, buttons that didn't button, zippers that didn't zip, wrap dresses that didn't wrap. I've always hated things that don't work." Halston's choice of garment finishes were all about simplicity. He would rather use hidden hooks and eyes instead of zippers and buttons. The ultra suede shirt dress is Halston's most iconic design. Designed in 1972, this trench coat style dress became Halston's signature. It was made in a new and innovative fabric, ultra suede. Being an artificial fabric, its appearance resembled suede, but it didn't stain as a natural one. It meant it could be worn in the rain or machine washed. At that time, that was kind of a revolution because it meant freedom for the woman who could care easily for the garment. Inspired by a man's shirt, his most famous garment was subtle and sexy, with buttons that started at the breastbone instead of the neckline, revealing more cleavage. It also had a separate but matching white belt that could be wrapped in any manner. The model number 704 became a fashion staple, and its design is relevant until this day. Whether it was cashmere, jersey, or chiffon, it was about a total look. Clothes should be practical, glamorous, functional, and spare. His jumpsuits follow his own set of rules. Effortless and functional while extremely elegant, his jumpsuits were flowy yet made the woman's body look its best, creating curves while also accentuating the neckline and the waist. One interesting thing is that Halston always asked his models during fittings if they were comfortable in his designs. Karen Bjorson says that he would ask, "How does the clothes feel? Can you sit in this dress? Can you walk?" And she adds, "You were free inside your clothes." How to dress. It was one of the most iconic 70s look, and it was popularized by Halston. Fastening at the waist and around the neck, the backless, often draped style meant freedom of movement, which helped entrench it on the dance floors of the disco era and beyond, making it the perfect look for a Studio 54 night out or a black tie event like the Oscars, to a red carpet event. Wear it on the beach with gladiator flat sandals or to a black tie affair with tons of jewels and a top knot. A kaftan is always chic. It's a trend that began in the 60s and has transcended time. Halston knew this very well and was sure to incorporate this minimalist design into a lot of his creations. Perhaps Halston's most contemporary contribution to the world of fashion is his habit of listening to the woman and designing for the woman's body. He didn't only think clothing should make a woman feel powerful and beautiful. He also thought It had to bring comfort while also highlighting the best features of her body. He was the first designer to cast African American models and plus-sized actresses as his muses. He was one of the first designers to embrace every body type. He did not care how your body looked like. He understood that it was his job to make your body look good.
If there's any advice I'd give to that public out there, I think it would be the advice of know yourself. Know what suits your purposes. Know what works for your life to make you more attractive and more comfortable. It'll work for you. My name is Halston. I'm known for the clothes I design. And just as clothes dress a woman, carpets should dress your home. That's the challenge I felt in designing these carpets for Karastan, to create something simple, elegant, and livable, not just for today, but for tomorrow. Karastan still weaves carpets, and this ensures the depth and texture, the luxury I want. Now there's a Halston for your floor.
In the 1970s, American designer Halston was the toast of the New York press. He was America's first fashion celebrity and a 4-time Coty Award winner. He dressed the best, but began his life humbly.
Very strange, but very true. I always wanted to be in the fashion business from the time I was about 4 or 5 years old. I was always fascinated with it.
And I was a very devoted friend of Halston, and I realized right away that he was an absolute genius and would be, I felt that he would be one of our leaders, and he was.
What a lot of designers call today the minimalistic look is really Halston clothes.
One of the true beginners of American fashion, its simplest and its best. We see memories of Halston in many of the collections.
Starting out as a talented milliner, his famous pillbox hat for Jackie Kennedy put him on the fashion map.
It was a very interesting moment for millinery for me, because it was when the now Mrs. Onassis was the young, beautiful Mrs. Kennedy. I became very, very famous quickly on that.
I remember when he first designed hats at Bergdorf, and then suddenly he designed clothes, and the clothes were much more beautiful than the hats.
Throughout the 70s, his work, as well as his social life, was at its zenith. His designs epitomize clean, elegant American fashion, but he is perhaps best remembered for the introduction of ultra suede.
What I think I tried to do was sort of relax the mood of fashion for Americans, so that Americans could believe in American style. What we did was to make it understandable, stylish, comfortable, relaxed, and good-looking for a lot of people.
I got as close, I think, as anybody to him. He knew everything about me, was always there if I needed him, as a friend, as a designer, as a brother. He once asked me what I wanted to look like, and I said, I don't know. Mel Fred Astaire during the day and a movie star at night. He said, oh, all right. And he did it. You know, it was amazing.
I mean, there's no magic about fashion. Fashion is made by people, all kinds of different people. But in fact, they have to put their money down, and they have to buy it, and it must work for them.
Halston was forced to retire from his own label in 1984 and died in self-imposed exile in 1990. Although Halston the man may have passed on, his name through a series of young American designers lives on.
I think the importance of fragrance usually comes for a designer after he has already attained notoriety, and that few designers have the opportunity for the business community to back you up in your design into a major fragrance launch. I think fragrance is the most difficult thing that a designer has as a challenge, because it's something like, about a 3-year design project, from the beginning concept of it to, that is with the fragrance itself, to the bottle, to the package, to the advertising, to every single aspect of it. And then once that you do develop it, you don't have the chance to change it again. It's one of those things that really has a long life, perhaps, if in fact it's going to have that. There's so much riding on it up front and at the beginning that you can't do it in a sort of chancy way. You must be very, very definite and have very strong convictions about it. One is sort of the sexy, sensuous category. One is the clean, fresh category. I think it depends very much upon the man. That there are many different types of men as there are women. But I think by and large, if you're going to generalize, I think men want to have all those things. They want to have a successful, a clean, fresh, sexy fragrance. Judging people by the way they look is pretty much the way things are. In other words, I think that, you know, if you are a serious businessman, take the banking community for an example, you would want to see your banker rather conservative and rather simple by nature. And not too far out on any way. I mean, you wouldn't have him come in with a black short-sleeved shirt on with stars and moons on it. But for average Mr. America, he needs a rather conservative approach to men's fashion. Something neat and orderly, something that's easy to maintain, something that is expendable a bit, and something that's not too far out one way or the other. Mr. America dresses rather conservative, because men don't change their clothes nearly as much as women, and they don't change their fashion as much. I think it depends on one's own style, that personal style, which comes out in the wear.
I love it.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth will like that.
The color is fabulous.
Yeah,
The
it's
fabric
beautiful.
looks good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's
I think
very
that
happy.
would be very good for originals. I think the world of fashion, the world of entertainment are very, very intermarried. We have great many theater people who come, you know, we make their whole wardrobes. I'm right in the process of redoing Lauren Bacall's show called The Woman of the Year. All the costumes for that. She wants them to look updated and fashionable. World tour that Liza did, she had 180 costumes, plus her traveling wardrobe. She was in the Orient, she was all over, so she needed great many different things. Elizabeth Taylor, for any sort of major appearance, puts forth an enormous effort to come and have something made like the night of 100 stars here recently. So I think they're very interrelated. I think it's very healthy for the fashion industry to have the entertainment industry, and vice versa. I just finished two major dances for my friend Martha Graham. That is a very long-term design project. It takes about 3 months' work, and that's working at the studio with the dancers to see the movement, which changes all the time until the last moment. Working with the set designer, whoever it might be, on the last two, Martha designed them. With Martha and that great artistic ability she has to convey what she's trying to say in her dance. They're trying to make it work so physically it does work. It's the most complicated of the design exercises, dealing with something to wear, because it must move, and it becomes your dancing partner. It also puts the dance, or whatever it is, in a point in time. And also, it gives you a further extension on every level if you have different things pointed out, whether it be bracelets and crowns and armor and greaves or sandals or whatever it might be. It's a very long-term, difficult design exercise. And always, always, just like Martha, as soon as it's finished, I want to do it over again. But we always work with the time of an opening. And it's a very gratifying exercise. I mean, I enjoy it very much, but it's a lot of work. I like all aspects of design. I think perhaps, you know, being a designer, the thing that if I wanted to have some sort of thing that I didn't like about it, is that you have less and less time to do your design. And more time is devoted to the media or the press or, you know, the business community or whatever it is, and you don't have time. You fight for the time when you can, in fact, think and sit down and be creative, which you know you're about. If there's any advice I'd give to that public out there, I think it would be the advice of know yourself, know what suits your purposes, know what works for your life to make you more attractive and more comfortable, and it'll work for you.